Welcome. Turn your cameras on if you have cameras. It's going to be so exciting to see as many faces as possible because then the smaller I get, which would be really nice. I've done the last minute hair check, but I'm going to go small and then I look how I look. So that's what it is. Welcome. It's so nice to see so many of you, some friendly faces in there, some people I know. Welcome to some sales teams that I know we have watching. It's really nice again to see you all. We'll just give everyone a chance to get online and check that you can hear me. There's just a few more people coming in. I'm seeing sunshine in the background of some people's. We have sunshine where I am. We have actually hot sunshine where I am. And we also have surf out there. So it's tempting. Okay, I'm going to start just a couple of things. If you didn't manage to print your workbook out, totally fine, but it would be better for you if you've got some paper or pens to capture some notes. Because I know at the end of the day, you're going to walk out and you're going to want to refer back to some of those notes. So if you need to go grab that, grab it, because you want to grab that. And I think I'm just going to start. People will just keep rolling in as they come in. So first of all, can I say I'm so excited that you said yes, one, to join us, but two, for yourself, because you will finish this hour and a half with some skills that you can actually go away as soon as we're finished and start applying. They're real, they're practical skills, and you'll start to be able to generate different connections with different people. So that's one of the things that you this webinar with. The other thing is we're going to take some time to actually self-reflect on our own communication style. And I'm hoping that you'll have some light bulb moments for yourself to go, oh, yes, I tend to tell long stories, or, oh, maybe I do put too detail, or yes, I go fast, or I actually like a slow pace. Because if you can understand how you like to communicate, the other side of that coin is sometimes you're trying to communicate with people who you might find more frustrating, more irritating, and that connection just doesn't quite happen as naturally as it does with others. So again, at the end of the hour and a half together, that's totally fine. We're human, that's normal, but we'll have a skill that we can use to connect that. First of all, I want to just say we have a surprise. So what we're going to do, I've got a team behind me, background here, and they are going to work out for us. They're just going to draw someone's name out of a hat. For anyone that's on the live webinar, you will get free access to one of our continual training development programs. There's 4 of them. I'll tell you about them as we get to the end, but somebody will win that and I'll announce that winner at the end. So that's what we're going to start with. If you've got your workbook, now is a great time to open it, and I'm going to tell you as we go through, okay? So first page it's welcome from us. This is a note. This is our hope. This is why we do what we do. And it's truly just to empower people to go and have the skills that they need to generate the life and the outcomes that they want. So today is all about creating deeper connections. And whether you're in sales, whether you're in management, whether you're just connecting with people, if you can connect with people, you're much more likely to be able to generate the outcome that you're going through for with them. That's the first page. You can read that later. There's a lot of words there. Turn to the next page. My name's Kelly, so I'm your trainer today, and this page is just telling you a little bit about me. There's not too much there written. Why? Because you are going to probably learn maybe more than you want to. I tend to be one of those communicators that overshares than undershares. So by the time I'm finished, you're going to get to know more about me. This is just about who I am, what we do, and why we do what we do. There's our business blurb there. You can turn the page. So we are now on page 3. And I just want to do some fun to start. Here is a disclaimer. So the questions I'm about to ask you, these are true or false questions, but you have to hear this. It's generalized questions, okay? So I know that not 100% of people will fall into the true or will fall into the false, but if you go general, then you can answer true or false, okay? So on page 3, if you've got a pen, that's where you're going to capture your answers. You're going to put a T for true, F for false, and just write that down. So you know, It's not school. So I'm not going to get anybody to put in the chat what they got out of 5. It doesn't really matter. This is truly about having some fun. And it's just starting to get our minds to think about not personality styles, but the way people communicate. I also want you to think about how amazing our system is at reading communication. So by asking you these questions, it's going to get you into that mindset. I'll turn page and let's go. So here's the first question. I want you to think about a time that you have been in a cafe. So you're sitting at a cafe and you take some time to stop and observe. You're sitting at a table, there's other tables around you. Now, at that other table, you might look over and you're able to tell that that table seems like it's a work lunch. Like there's kind of friendly, but there's also a little bit of tension. And you might look over here and now you think, okay, that table is really good friends because there's a lot of chit chat. And you might look over here and you think, that one's an interview because you can see the tension, right? And you might carry on looking around this cafe and then you see, okay, they've been married for 20 plus years. And then you might look over here and go, this is clearly a first date. So it's not that you're listening to all of those conversations, okay? It's that as you sit there without listening to the words that what they're saying, you can start to tell what style of conversation is happening. So here's the question that you're going to answer is, you can generally tell the different styles of conversation happening around you without listening. And you can put a true or a false, whether you agree with that. That's the first question. Some of the questions are shorter, so you don't have to listen too long on my question. Next question, second question. Again, generalization. I want you to think about you're out shopping, not for a $20 item, but say something around over 500, probably in the 1,000. Plus, it's not allowed to be an online purchase, okay? So you're out shopping, you walk into a store and they have the exact item that you're looking for, but the salesperson that came and spoke to you, for whatever reason, you felt like you didn't really like them or you didn't connect with them. How hard is it for you then to spend your money? So the question is, we don't typically spend our money with a salesperson that we don't really like. Now I'm using that word lightly, so true or false, we don't typically spend our money with a salesperson that we didn't really like. Now I know people who like to get a good deal, but if they didn't like the person, they are quite happy to walk 2 stores down the street and pay an extra bit of money because they do not want to spend their money. So that's just what my observation. Number 3. Okay, this is for all those really persuasive, excited type communicators. If you're excited about something, and it might be just a dinner that you've had or a new product that you've tried, your excitement and persuasion is enough to get someone else to buy in all the time. True or false? Your excitement and your persuasion is enough to get someone else to say yes. True or false? Okay, fourth question. We communicate with some people easier than others. Generalization, but we communicate with some people easier than others. Hopefully that's an easy question. Last question. Having rapport and trust with people influences the effect that you can have with the outcome with that person. So by having rapport and trust, you've got much more chance at influencing the outcome. True or false? Write that in your books. Okay, again, you don't have to tell me your answers, but let's go through this together. Go back to number 1, which is that cafe situation. The answer from our perspective as a generalized comment here is that it's true because you're not necessarily listening to the words that those people are saying. But here's what's happening. Your system is reading the energy that goes between the people speaking. And different meetings, different cafe tables have different types of energy. So let's go to the easiest one, like an interview. There's the person who's usually more comfortable, they're doing the interview, and the person being interviewed is usually a little more nervous, so there's a tension there. So the energy, we would say, flows this way, but this person's been a little more guarded, for example. So you know that your system can actually do that without even listening to the words. So the answer is true on that one. Second one, true. Most people do not want to spend their money with a salesperson they didn't like. Whoop-de-doo. The harder part behind this question, it's a little more painful, is it's true when you're wanting to connect with someone. So if we don't want to spend our money, guess what else we don't do? We don't typically be open and share. So if you're trying to build relationship, gain connection, or make a sale, win someone over on your team, if you've got a jolted connection, and they don't want to share, don't want to spend their money, that's when it becomes a problem. Number 3, it's false. Not everyone is motivated by your passion and excitement. And I know for the persuasive, expressive styles, you're going to be like, really? If I just keep going, I'll win them over. But it's not true. Some people actually need the facts, like the actual facts, and like a lot of facts and a lot of details. And it's that information that will influence their decision. So excitement alone, persuasion alone doesn't influence. You've got to have other options. Number 4, true. Usually we find styles that are more like us easier to connect with. So if you like a really fast, energetic conversation, you're probably going to connect with people who can keep up with your pace. If you tend to be a slower, more observant, you like to think before you speak, you're probably going to connect with people who are the same. And these overexcited people you might find more tiring or difficult to connect with. And the last one, I would go true. It's absolutely true. If you don't have connection or trust, you're much less likely to be able to do anything with anybody, because that's the thing that you have to have first. Whether you're trying to get a sale, manage someone, build a relationship, the first thing you need is connection, rapport, and trust. So there's our first, that's just a fun start. I will want to start now with a few stories, and these are common stories. Reason I've picked them is because they're not stories that happen once in a lifetime. These are stories that we hear often in daily business and in daily life. And as I just share some of these stories, you may be listening and thinking, okay, I can relate to some of these. And then I'm going to talk about why I'm sharing these stories. So the first one is, I worked with this, she was a mum, and she was a new mum. She had 2 kids by the time I got to work with her. And I found out as I've worked with her is that she had come out from a managing position. Okay, so now she has left her managing role. She's at home with these 2 kids, and they'd also moved areas because nicer area to bring their kids up. So here she is, and she's said the reason she reached out to me is she said, I've been here for about 6 months and I'm really struggling to make friends. I see you do communication training. So she said she would go in, take her kids, drop their bags, sign them off, sort of smile, say hi, and walk out. And she was struggling to get any invitation beyond a hello, polite hello. She noticed that other parents were going out for coffees afterwards, and she was never getting that invite, and it was something she wanted to change. Another story is about, actually this happened 2 weeks ago. We caught up with a businessman, and we were in there for a business training session, asked obviously, how was your Christmas break? And he goes, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Do you know, every year from about November, I'm already excited about my Christmas break. Why? My family hire a beach house. It's right on the beach, and we all go away together, and we're all excited to hang out because we have really busy lives throughout the year, and this is the time that we connect. He said, but by day 4, I'm going crazy. He's like, my sister, she talks so much. She just dominates the dinner table. The stories go on and on and on. She repeats herself. And by the 3rd day, I'm just done listening to her. And he goes, and then my brother, he goes, I'm not sure why he comes, because he takes himself off fishing or whatever activity it was that each day. And then he finally comes back. And as my sister talks all night, he might say 1 or 2 sentences. And he said, I actually came home on day 4 and thought, why do I look forward to this all year? And he's like, what the heck is going on? That was one story. Here's another story from a gentleman that we worked with, and he actually was in sales. So this person sold new build homes, okay? And he created a goal for himself that he wanted to earn $100,000 in commission through the year. He'd set the goal 2 years prior to this and missed it just, okay? So again, he sets this goal and he is doing everything he knows how to do. And it wasn't until the skills that we go through today that he worked out what he was missing and how he could change it. I'm going to tell you the end of that story soon. Another one was a manager. So this particular manager, they are a little bit like aligning the expressive persuasive, lots of talking. And so what he felt was a good thing to do as a manager was give his team all of the information. Like, don't leave anyone in the dark. Make sure they know what's happening. Give them everything they need. Make sure, and he would just tell long stories. And he said, it's so annoying. Like, I make these meetings really exciting and I share everything. But he said, people are like, I can tell that they'll check text messages, so they're not really listening to me. And here he is trying to manage and lead these people. And a personal one, this one's a little more painful, and it's happened in the past, but I see this one happen often. And I'm sure as I share this example, you will have seen it or you may have experienced it. And here it is. You go to a social, it could be a dinner with a big group of people, it could be an event, and you walk up and you say hello to someone. And there's just not this connection, and you can feel them kind of looking over your shoulder, maybe to find someone that they're closer to. So you can already feel it, and then you're standing there going, I'm not quite sure what to do. The other one that I see is you start launching into a story, and you're a little bit into your story, and you notice that the other person's eyes start to glaze over. You don't need to wave at me, but I'm sure we've experienced it. And you're literally like, shoot, I'm halfway through my story. I can't just stop, but I can see that they're not interested. And you literally left with, what am I going to do? So most of the time we just blah, 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 and try to finish it and die quietly on the inside. The reason I'm sharing all of these stories is because I hope, as I've put lots of examples there, that you can see yourself in some of them, or you've observed it. And guys, they're all painful stories, and it's not really where anybody wants to be. And this is why I've set it up, because we want to be able to go, okay, what's happening and what can I do to change it? So all today, and as we go, not today, we don't have a whole day, we've got this time together. It's all about the signals that you send when you communicate. Just like going back to that cafe, you are reading the signals that are going between two people, and you can tell whether that's a good, strong connection or not. Do you know we speak at about 100, me, probably 120 words per minute, but people read us at about 400 words per minute. So their system isn't just listening to the words that we say. It's watching our eye contact, how close, how confident, our tones. And their system is pretty much deciding, do I like you? Do I trust you? Will I stay engaged, or am I ready to disconnect? So once we know that, we can actually apply some skills to make sure that we keep that person connection. Just imagine for a second, if at the end of this hour and a half together, you walk away with some skills that you know that you can confidently connect with someone else. Skills that you can be very aware of the style of communication that you like, and you can either turn that on, turn it off, and you're also aware of the signals that someone else is going to read from that. So first of all, you're going to walk away going, I know about me. You're going to walk away knowing how other people communicate and what to do about it. The other thing we want to leave with is the underlying thinking of each style. Because if you can understand what's going on for those people, you can understand why you get the behaviors you get. And then you'll get a skill on how to connect with each style. Question. And you can, if you've got a chat box and you can reach and answer this, here's the question. How quickly do we form an opinion of somebody? Now, I know you're all nice people, so you're going to like everyone wherever you go. But how quickly do you form an opinion of someone? So we've got a minute, 10 to 20 seconds, 10, 9 seconds, less than 30 seconds. Isn't that amazing how quickly we're forming an opinion? And if we generalize that opinion, here's the question, here's what behaviorists would say. In under a minute, your system's deciding whether you like this person or whether you, and it's not that you don't like them, you don't even know them. So I would say this word, whether you want to open up or whether you want to keep private and keep that information to yourself. So it's under a minute. Here's a setup. I trust that you have all been shopping in the last 6 months. So you've walked into the store And you walk into a shop, and usually a sales assistant will come up to you. So let's be mean. They usually ask one of two typically terrible questions, like, how's your day going? Which we all know, if they got the truth, well, actually, I've got a pile of washing, a dinner to cook, and I'm just, they don't really want to know, but they be polite. So they might say, how's your day going? Or they say, can I help you? And if we read people at under a minute, our system quickly says, do I tell this person what I'm in here to buy? Or do I use I'm just looking, thanks? Now, some of us have patterns, and I know that you'll be like, I never take help, and some people will always take help. But essentially what's happening in that time is your system was like, oh, the way you stood to me felt too close, or your tone, or it felt fake. And you've decided now whether you go, I'm in here buying black work pants, or I'm just looking, thanks. Doesn't really matter for you, but if you're the salesperson on the other side of that and you rely on sales or you rely on winning people over, there's a big difference right there. Because if you get someone that says, I'm just looking, the chance of you influencing them buying pants from your store has just shut down hugely, versus the person, if you said, oh, I'm looking for some black work pants, they now have an opportunity to take you through and carry on that process. Understanding that, it gives us the reason that we want to go, here's why we want to connect. Here's the end of those stories that I set up. Go back to my mum. So through this process, she worked out that she's what we would call a direct communicator, which means she tends to be a bit more task focused. She's quite fast. She's quite efficient. So her sentence lengths are quite short. She doesn't what she would consider as fluff around and waste time. That's fine. However, if you're walking into a kindergarten or a preschool to drop your kids off and your goal is to make some friendships, some people are not going to be intimidated by that, but there's a whole group of people that will. And so at the end of our session, she goes, so I need to now use longer sentences. And her words were like a sing-song voice. And I'm like, yes, because your people listening to you will perceive that as really friendly. She said, is it fake? And I'm like, it's not fake. It's just you're choosing what you do with your words. So there was the mum story. Here's the other one, this salesperson story. So his communication mode fell into the category that we call analytical. And he was someone that liked details. The conversation went slow, really thoughtful, very considered, lots of long pauses. And he did what an analytical personality would do, is after listening to this, he went back through his sales records and he plotted each person that he made a sales with. And guess what he discovered? He discovered that he was making sales with lots and lots and lots of analytical type buyers. He was also catching some direct. Why? Because they could focus on the task at hand and get the job done. And he also grabbed some participants. Why? Because more introverted, slower pace. But then he went through and said, okay, who have I missed sales with? And there was a whole communication style that he identified that he had not made one sale to. So this style was the expressive style. Easy now, because he's got this goal to make $100,000. Now he goes, easy. All I need to do is make sure I get some flipping sales out of this style of communication. Guess what? A week or two later, he gets the opportunity. So he meets a guy who wants to buy a house, wants to build a house. He meets him, they decide to meet back in a week's time, and he would present the quote. So he goes to a cafe, the person, the prospective client comes in, he presents a quote, and the client falls on the floor, laughing, oh my gosh, it can't be this much, ha ha ha. Our salesperson said he sat in his chair thinking, this is really uncomfortable because the whole cafe is full of people. But he was like, here's my opportunity to reach an expressive style of communication. And so they have their meeting, and they need to go away, adjust the quote, and they agree to meet a week later. So he goes back, adjusts his quote. This time, when he walks into a cafe, one, with his goal to make a sale to an expressive person, he comes with two things in hand. One, a quote, and the second thing he took to that meeting was a lounge cushion. So he walks in and he sits down and he says to the guy, hi, da da da, and they start talking. And then he says, I've just brought this. And he looks and he's like, why have you got a cushion? And he said, because I'm going to present you the quote, but I'm just going to put the cushion on the floor because if you fall off the chair, I just want to make sure you don't hurt yourself this time. Mr. Expressive starts laughing, thinks that our salesperson is really expressive and really funny. And guess who made a sale? He got a sale. And by the way, end of that story, guess who made his 100,000 goal? He did. If you were to ask him, how did that feel? I'm going to tell you the truth. He said, I was dying on the inside. I felt so stupid. I felt like I was so out of my comfort zone. True, because you are. But he said, I wanted to get sales here. I had my own personal reasons and goals to get that $100,000 commission. And he said, I was willing to try. And he said, once I got going, it became less comfortable. The only reason I'm sharing that, because all of us, by the time we get to the end, you're probably going to identify some of the skills will feel uncomfortable. But my encouragement is just have a go with it until your system learns, hey, the other person quite likes this and it's kind of working for me, because that's what I would say happens. It does feel uncomfortable to start with. We want to achieve for you to be able to win over anyone, whether you're in sales or not. Because even if it's just winning over people in friendships in that group, you need some skills to be able to do that. And that's our goal. I want to just say this. We are not talking about personality. You have a personality. So your personality, I'm just checking on, is down deeper here. But the way you communicate is surface level. And the reason I'm splitting this quickly for you is because I don't want you to go around and change who you are. You want to show up as your authentic self. But if you can choose the words that you say, the sentence lengths that you choose, the pace that you speak at, what you choose to share, whether you choose to share personal connection or lots of facts and figures, all of that power is in your hands. And if you know one of those is going to connect with someone else, it's not about changing who you are, it's just about changing how you say what you say. And you don't have to go and change who you are. You just have to know how to choose the words that you say. And that's what we'll get to by the end. I always liken this to a builder's tool belt because I can see, and I'm going to guess that I might get in trouble here, that probably most of us are over 20. And that means that we generally, our communication mode is that we operate by habits because it's worked for us, it's comfortable for us, so we will go and repeat the same. And if you think about a builder's tool belt, the more tools that that builder has on their belt, the more different scenarios he has the ability to influence. So just think about this. You have a screw to get into the wall. And let's say you only use a hammer to do that. And you give that screw a big hit. Will you get the screw into the wall? You can thumbs up. Sometimes I get people like, yeah, I'm like, I've got some muscles. Yes, you actually will probably get the screw into the wall. But the truth is, would you ever hang anything on it? No. Why? Because you've probably damaged your jib or your wall, whatever it's made of. It now doesn't have integrity because you've used the wrong tool to get the screw into the wall. And so if we think about our communication and how we communicate, let's say we're really direct and we just go around and tell people because that's easy for us, you can walk away and go, great, I've told them, I got the screw into the wall. But when someone else comes behind and goes, hey, how are you feeling? They're like, oh, a little broken, a little fragile, because the way that it was communicated wasn't necessarily done with the right tool. So we're always thinking about what's the outcome that you're going for and what's the tool that you'll use. So again, if we go back to that builder's tool belt, if you have a range of tools, you can then choose the right tool for the right situation and you can apply and use that. And you are now empowered to do it. I've worked with a range of companies, big ones, small ones, done hundreds of hours of coaching sessions. And one of the situations I worked with was actually with Westpac Bank, and it was their customer care team at head office level. So if you had a problem that couldn't be dealt with that branch level and then probably the middle management, you would become to this team. Okay. And this team was the team that had to tell people, we are recalling your mortgage, your life insurance isn't going to, there's a clause you don't fit to get your life insurance, whatever. It was information like that. So that information that they had to deliver to people was really uncomfortable information. Now, they knew their bank policies and procedures, and they knew that they were allowed to do it because it was all legally correct. But on the other hand, they also, this team realized that they're dealing with people. And these people actually had lives. And that's why they'd got me in to do some training around communication, because how do you tell that information? It doesn't change what you have to say, but if you can actually connect with the person, like, so they feel like they can actually be connected and seen as a human, as a person, you're much more likely to get better customer care and feedback. And that's what we did. We went through this skill and some others that we do in other training modules, but they were able to increase their, because they do surveys around their customer care level, by just adapting and changing the way that they approached each person. And they did it for every person they spoke to, not just like a robot. So that's where I love it because it's practical. We're going to jump into some teaching now. So can you turn to page 4 in your workbook? And here's what we're going to cover. Communicating consciously. I mentioned really briefly that by now you probably habitually communicate. So if you rely on being exciting and telling stories, you probably repeat that. It's just because we're humans and habits come easy, they require less energy. So we want to just talk about when it comes to connecting, if you can do it consciously, it means you're going to choose how you're going to do that to generate that outcome. Second one, we want to do the 4 styles of communication. Yes, we're going to go for boxes, not because we like putting people in boxes, but it just makes the learning easier to go, okay, great, I know what I'm dealing with. Third thing, is we're going to look at understand the underlying thinking. It just makes sense of the behaviors that you see. So rather than going, they're so rude, or they're so direct, or they're always in a rush, and we feel that little bit of offense or disconnect, we can go, they're in a direct mode. They don't want to be mucked around. They want to get straight to the point. So if we understand that, it takes the personal aggravation that can be there away. The next thing is a skill to connect with each style. You and your communication mode. The best place we can start with is actually stopping and looking at how do we communicate generally. Now, lots of times these are modes and you will change. But the question I'll bring you back to when we get to this part is, what's your go-to? Where's your most comfortable? Where do you live most of your life? And it's probably going to be a couple, so don't worry, I'll explain why and what we do with that when we get there. And then last, I've just been honest about it. I said, well, that's nice, but what's next? Because how do we actually apply some of this learning? How do I now go away and generate the different outcomes for myself? So turning the page, you have it set up, and I'm just going to go through now and we'll go through teaching points. If you don't have a workbook, you're going to draw a big cross, and here's what we're going to do. On your horizontal line, can you, on the left, there's an I. I just have to tell you, I have dyslexia, so I'm like, is it the left? Yes, it's the left. The left-hand side of your workbook, you have an I, and I want you to write this on that line, okay? Can you just write the word introvert there? So this line, we are now assessing as we listen to someone communicating, do they sound more like an introverted style of communication? So if you're sitting at the chat here, what I'll get you to do is start thinking about introverted style of communication. Put some answers in. What would you notice about introverted style communication? I'll throw some things to you that helps get the thinking going, but are they loud or are they quiet? Are they reserved or do they put themselves out there? Hesitant to share, listens more, likes to, leads less in a conversation, less eye contact, and softer spoken. So just as we grab that list, just think about someone you might know that falls more into that side, okay? Let's slide right out to the right-hand side now. Now we're going extrovert style of communication. So now, are these people quiet? Do they like to be led? Or are they much louder, like to be center of attention? What do you notice? They speak fast. Do they tell big stories with extra facts to make the story even better? Yeah, excited, energetic, fast speaking, busy hands, confident. So all of that, now can you start to think about someone that you know in your life that slides way more out this side? Just so you know, these are modes, not personalities. So you could be tired and fall way more into an introverted mode. You could typically be more introverted mode, but something's happened and you're irritated, so you might come and present in that extroverted side. So now we've got introvert side, extrovert side. Let's go vertical. Top of there, it's got a T. Can you put the word task in your workbooks? And I'm going to get you to add another word here. You can put it in brackets or a dash, whatever you want to do, but can you put the word thinking? So thinking task people, this is the style of communication mode that I'll actually just share this story. I squeezed in a quick surf yesterday morning and I knew that I had a busy day. So it was get out, surf. Now I had texted a friend, hey, let's meet out for the surf. Great, blah, blah. I'm going to be in this. We're going to look out for each other because there's lots of people where I live and lots of people surf. So I'm paddling out there and I see her and I'm like, so where are we going to sit? And then she's like, oh, I've just been watching, should we go here? And we talk about where we're sitting to catch the best waves amongst this crowd, okay? And I actually caught one wave and then I'm paddling back and I'm like, did I even say hi to her? I don't even know if I said hello. That's what you call in task mode. Now, it's not that I typically live there, but in my little world, I had a lot going on. I was squeezing in the surf and I forgot at that point even to be friendly to my friend. Like, hey, how's your morning been? I'm just like, where should we sit? Where are we going to catch some waves? And off we go. Now, whether she's offended by that or not, it doesn't matter. I'm just sharing with you how when you're in task mode, sometimes you can forget to do the pleasantries. Just think about the people that you live with, that you interact with, and that you work with. Sometimes you could be like, hey, I had a good weekend too. And it's not that they didn't care about that. They just tend to live in that task thinking space. So they'll just get straight to the point. Slide down. Now we're talking about people and feeling. So these are the people who it's all about people. They love to feel, they love to connect with you. So you can thumbs up if you agree with this statement. You've booked a meeting with one of these people, you booked 20 minutes. Does your meeting normally go for 20 minutes or does it normally go for 40 with a people person? Most of us would thumbs up that that meeting doubles in length or at least goes over time. Why? Because they want to connect with you. They want to feel connected. So they'll be like, oh my gosh, you live in Timbuktu? I had a friend's cousin that lived in Timbuktu as well. And they try to find any connection with that person to feel like they're connected. So now you've got a grading scale again, task and thinking, people and feeling. We end up with our 4 boxes. So let's start on the top right-hand side and you've got a D, okay? Can you fill this word in? This style we call direct. I'm going to ask you the questions. Here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to get you to put your thoughts in the chat, and then what I'll do is I'll create the list that you can transfer into your workbook. So in the chat, think about this style. They are extroverted, they're task and they're thinking. How would you spot that somebody is in direct communication mode? So you can put your answers in. Here's some things to get your thinking. Do you think they talk with short sentences or long sentences? Do you think they like to get straight to the point? We've got short. Do you think they muck around? Straight to the point. Yep, short and fast, no chit chat, short, sharp, straight to the point, fast. And you're right, short and serious. So let's now put this into our workbook. I'll give you the list you can write in. So let's go short sentences. This is what you would notice about people who are in a direct communication mode. They have short sentences. Next thing you can write in, straight to the point. Next thing you can write in is fast. And you can add in brackets here. They almost appear rushed sometimes. So you feel like, oh shoot, they're in a rush. Can you add this one in? They know what they want. When they come to talk to you, they're not using the conversation to decide that to what they want. They pretty much arrive knowing what they want from you. Eye contact, I think this came out in our list, but I would say strong eye contact. A direct communication, someone using that tends to have quite strong eye contact. So you can write that one in. And the last thing we'll capture on the list is, write this down, says what they think. They typically tell you what they think. You're not kind of left second guessing. Sometimes that's a little painful. Here's another scenario I want you to think about. Just imagine that you work at a reception desk and you're busy, let's say working away, or you're on your phone and you're talking to someone and a direct style walks in. Think about this. Do they politely just wait over in the corner until you're finished? Or do they come right up to that reception desk, lean forward, get some good eye contact and be like, hello, I'm here. Now, they may not use those words, but they will use all of that body language to be like, hop off the phone, I'm here. That's direct communication mode. Okay, that's enough of a list now for that style. But as we've gone through it, just before we slide, the question I'd like you to think about is, think about your world, your business, your life. Have you got someone in mind that you would say, yes, they fit that? Starting to go, yep, I can see that. Because it helps when you're like, oh, that's what they do. All right, let's now slide. We're going to stay on the extrovert side, but we're going to move from task and thinking into the people, okay? So in your workbook, we've got an E. Can you write the word expressive? Expressive communication style. Again, let's do it the same way we did. Let's capture it all in the chat and then we'll create the list. So think about an expressive communication style. What does their voice tend to do? Does it have a pretty monotone or does there lots of highs and lows, lots of variety in their voice? Loud, variation, high pitch, long sentences. These people are easy to spot, right? Because they're so open. Highs, lows, mixed tones. What about their hands? Movement. Yep, always using their hands. Okay, long meeting or short meeting? Italian, long, long. These are the people that if you book a 20-minute meeting, you should block out at least 30 or 40 in your calendar. Otherwise, you're going to be rushing around trying to make up time because as you're leaving, they're going to walk out with you. They're even going to walk you to your car if they still want to keep talking because they're expressive. They've got a lot to say. Goes on forever. By the way, they probably think they're really exciting. Let's talk about why. Let's create the list and I'll teach any points that haven't been drawn out here. So here we go. Write this down. Let's just say talks a lot. They typically talk a lot. So that's the first thing on your list. Let's grab that one. Long meeting. Let's grab, I'm going to use someone's words here. Lots of movement. Lots of movement. I'll speak to that quickly. By the way, these are the people that aren't afraid to touch you. Now, if you're someone that doesn't like to be touched, even if it's just on the shoulder or around it's like, ugh, but to them, oh, I love you. And they want to connect. So lots of movement. They're not afraid to get up, get get touchy. Let's not say that. They're not afraid to use touch, and their hands are going all the time. Okay. Their voice, and you can write this in, variety in their voice. Can you add this one? And then I want to teach to it and I'll explain why. Just write this. They repeat themselves. And if you're in this category, you'll be like, oh my gosh, no, I don't. But let me say what happens. An expressive style usually has a thought and they will say something and then they'll say it again. And then they could even say it a third time, but in a slightly different way. Why do they do that? Because they confirm their thinking through talking. So you can write that down. They confirm their thinking through talking. Just so you know, if you're ever in a negotiation with this style, it's one of the easiest styles to negotiate with, based on the fact that you can learn a lot about them, even information that they may not have meant to tell you, even with their facial cues or clues. Because you might say something and you'll instantly know, oh, they don't like that, or they'll openly share it. So when you're negotiating, information is often power in a negotiation, along with other things, but this is the style that usually gives a little too much. If that's you, hear that as a little be careful. Okay, so that's expressive mode. Long meetings, lots of moving, lots of talking. Let's slide. So now we're staying in the people feeling, but we're getting away from that extrovert space, coming way more into the introvert space, where we're quieter, more reserved, like to be led in conversations. You have a P in your workbook. Can you write the participative up there? This style we call participative style. And if you don't know how to spell it however the heck you can read it tomorrow, because no one else is looking at your workbook. So I like the word because it describes the style quite clearly. So let's do the same now. In the chat, thinking about a participative style, they are more introverted, but they're still people and feeling people. What does that conversation sound like? Is it loud? Is it quiet? Do they lead it? Do they like to be led? Um, are they good listeners or poor listeners? What do you think when you think about that style? Agreeable, great listeners. Yep, good listeners. Good listeners relates through shared experiences, absolutely encouraging. They'll use leading questions, statements as questions, needs to be led, and they like to be led, more softly spoken, all of those things. Here's another thing I'm going to get you to add is I'm going to just quickly actually speak to the word, someone put agreeable. This is the style that in conversation is very agreeable. So they may be nodding and smiling and sending all of these signals to you that you think you're on the same page. However, there's something about this style of communication that you need to just be slightly careful of. And it's not because they're tricking you, it's because they hate confrontation. Now, just be careful, because normally I'll say this in a training room and everyone's like, I must be that because I hate confrontation. So just so you know, I've never met anybody that says, Kelly, I like confrontation. So generally speaking, most people don't like confrontation. But to a participative style, if you say, hey, are you guys free for dinner Friday night? Let me know. That can feel quite confrontational. Now, to a direct style, they'd be like, yeah, I'll let you know, no worries, I'll get back to you tonight. But to a participative style, that could feel like, oh, I don't want to let them down. Oh, I better check with my husband, wife, partner, family, whatever else. And it goes into that space. So it feels what we would say confrontational. So they hate confrontation, which is why in a conversation, you can get all these nods and agreement. Now, just imagine if you're selling to this person, you think that they're right there ready to sign up, and then you go into the close and they don't go ahead. I'm sharing that story because it's a really common one that we hear amongst salespeople. They're like, oh my gosh, they were right there. And I'll often say, they've probably, what do you think they've done? They've gone to another company and another company, had the nice, same polite conversation, nodded. That salesperson probably thinks they're right there, and they're not quite right there, like you assume. So let's now make that list, and we'll talk to a couple more points in here. Can we put the word reserved? Because I think that captures some of what we've got in the chat. So if you just write reserve, I'm going to go, let's grab that one. Good listeners. Let's grab agreeable. I'm just going to put this, it's just a different way of saying it, what we've got here, but they like to be led. They like to be led in a conversation. And then I'm going to add something under that. So they'll let you lead. I'm just going to throw it out there. I won't teach too much short, but then they will use leading questions and draw out more. Can you use this word? Because I think it just grabs a whole lot of behaviors, but they're very polite. Right, last thing I want you to write in is they give you hints, clues, and cues. Write that one down, and then I'll explain what I'm saying. This style, we call it peppers. Peppers the conversation with hints, cues, and clues all the way through a conversation. So they may not directly say, oh, I don't like gray couches, but they might go, oh, gray? Okay, so lots and lots of hints and cues and clues. They don't generally just blurt out what they think. Okay, so I'll speak to that in a minute as to why, because our job, if we are not this style, one, I say that for two reasons. If you are, you're a pretty good listener, so you'll pick up on that. If you're not, you'll just hear that as, I don't think they know what they think. But actually, they do know what they think, but they don't just tell you. They just give you hints and cues and clues, and we'll talk about why in a minute. That's enough of a list for that participative style. So we're still now on the introverted side, but we're going to slide way up, okay? So we're not in the people feeling space now. We are in task and thinking, and you have an A. Can you write this word in, analytical? This is the communication mode that we call analytical. Same process. What would you say happens in a conversation with an analytical mode? Do they have short sentences? Do they have long explanations, long sentences? Do they talk a lot? Do they have pauses? Focus on facts, figures, details. Doesn't make a decision. Long pauses, questions, more monotone. What about emotionally? I'll ask this. Do you think they're more emotionally open or emotionally closed? Frustrating for some people. Some people will connect really well, logical, closed. And it's not just by the way that they don't have emotion, it's just that they don't give you privy to that often in a conversation. Detail orientated, definitely detail orientated, lots of information. And I'll ask this question, but you think if you're an expressive style, you know how you're telling a story and you can stretch the size of a fish because it just makes the story way more exciting? That's the kind of stuff that really irritates an analytical because that's not the facts. So they want to know, so it was over the limit by how much? So, and then actually having an answer means a lot to that style, okay? All of these things. Let's make the list in our workbooks now. Okay, so let's go with pauses. Write that one in first. And here's what happens with an analytical style. You might ask a question. Now, this is really noticeable on the telephone. You've asked a question and you have to wait because that's exactly what happens. So you could call it a pause or a really long silence. And some of us don't like long silences, but an analytical style likes long silences. Why? because they are, and you can write this down, they think before they speak. They're processing. Let's grab this one. They're logical. So in a conversation, they tend to follow a logical order. Let's write this one. They like facts and details. Next one I'll get you to write is they ask, if I say deep or technical questions, write that one down. They don't ask shallow questions. They really want to understand why. So you can write this down as well. They like evidence. So flashy kind of car salesman one-liners that the marketing departments come up with sound great, but that's usually not enough to influence an analytical style because they want to know, how does that sentence be true? Show me. That's what they're looking for in a conversation. Can you add this one? More closed emotions. More closed on their emotions. Let me just put that into what this looks like in a conversation. You could be sharing something and you go, oh my gosh, I've just got the answer to this question I've asked. And you think, I've just given you this amazing answer. And they just go, And you're like, really? Because in their mind, they're now listening, thinking, processing, but on the receiving end, you think, hello. But if you are much more expressive, you'll be looking for those emotional cues and clues back, but you won't tend to get it in that mode or from that mode. All right, let's summarize what we've got so far. We've got the 4 styles and we've got a list of behaviors that you will see as you interact with those 4 styles. That page is really full, so turn the page and we've already set this up for you, but now I want to jump into the underlying thinking of each style and the skill that you can use with each style. Underlying thinking, we're going to start with direct and we'll go around the same order. You can see that big thinking box on your workbook. Can you write this in? The underlying thinking for a direct communication style is what's in it for me. Write that in. Now, lots of times when I say that, I see people be like, oh, I don't want to be that. That's a horrible or that's selfish. Remember, this isn't personality. This is how you arrive in a conversation, how you connect with someone. And so a direct style will arrive knowing what they want and they're wanting something from you out of that conversation. So let's just say I've got a purple pen here, a purple pen, and this person's coming to buy my purple pen. If I then go and say, hey, how was your weekend? That's going to really irritate that person. Why? Because they've come to buy a purple pen. If I say, tell me about how you're using the purple pen so I can get the right one for you, they will go, oh, this is great because you've gone straight on task and you're not going to waste my time. So the underlying thinking is, what's in it for me? Okay, let's go through all the thinking before we go through skills. When we have sales meetings where we're selling our training, one of the things we'll often say, we love meeting with somebody who is a direct communication. And here's why. You can have a 20-minute sales meeting and have all the decisions made for a whole year's worth of training because they know what they want, they ask the questions they need, and they make those decisions. Whereas other communication styles, there's 3, 4, 5 different meetings. So a direct communication mode is amazing at getting things done. So just buffering that whole what's in it for me, where some people shy away from that. I'm just saying there's strength in that. So don't ever think, oh, I don't ever want to be that. That gets things done. Let's slide. Expressive. Okay, what do expressive people do? They love to talk. So their underlying thinking is, do I feel involved? Do I feel involved? And if you have had a conversation with the expressive and maybe you're the expert on a particular topic, you'll notice that they start joining you, even though they don't really know much, but they will find a way to involve themselves in that conversation because their underlying thinking within communication is, do I feel involved? Let's slide into the participative. Underlying thinking. Two things here, but you can write it like this. Do I like you? So a participative style approaches much more slowly. They like to be led, and their thinking is, do I like you? Under the word like, can you just write this word? Because it's actually deeper than the word like. And the word you're going to add here is trust. Trust. They question, do I trust you? If you go back to the list of behaviors that you'll see, they're giving you hints, they're giving you clues and cues. They're not directly telling you, because what they're looking for in a conversation with you is, do I like you? Do I trust you? What are you going to do with those cues? What are you going to do with those hints? And they're not just going to give it all to you. They're answering that question as you speak to them. So that's why you get what you get. Sliding up into analytical underlying thinking is this logical? Is this logical? Just for fun, and we're not picking on them, and I'll ask this question, and you can put this in the chat. What style do you think is the style that would irritate an analytical style because they're not very logical? Yes, and they're all coming in fast. That is exactly right. The expressive people with all their excitement that bounce all over the place is why an analytical style is like, oh, I can't follow you. You're going so fast. I can't even keep up with you because you're bouncing everywhere. And so you can see the friction that already gets caused just by having two different communication modes trying to connect together. Okay, let's go now with what you can do for each style. Under direct, here's the skill that you can use. Write it in, then I'll give you an example. Set an agenda 1, 2, and 3. Set an agenda 1, 2, 3. So an agenda might just look like this. You might say, I've come here to sell you this desk that's in front of me. So I need to talk about what you want the desk for, where it's going to go, any color preference. So you now have set an agenda. Do you remember right at the start of our time together, I said we go into a cafe and we can read the signals or the connection that happens. Think about that. If there's someone on the screen here that's a direct, and if we could talk, I know it would just take too long, but if I said to you, if someone came in and said to you, right, we need to talk about the weekend, Monday's goals, and where we're at on budget, what would you instantly feel as a direct person? And here's what we know. The direct person goes, oh my gosh, you're not going to waste my time. You know what I want from you. You're here to do business. And they like it and they respect you for it. Question, which style do you think has the hardest time being that direct or setting an agenda, do you think? And you can put that in the chats. I see someone, I would love that. And as I repeat myself, I will be irritating you. So what style? Yeah, we've got it in there. That participative style, because they go slowly, to go and set an agenda is a big reach for them. But here's a story that I can share with you. We worked with a salesperson. She happened to sell carpet. This is going back 20 years. And she needed to get a sale out of this particular carpet shop. And she said, I've been trying to get the meetings and I booked the meeting, but when I turn up, the owner of the store just leaves. So he actually walks out. And I said to her, you're going to have to go in and set an agenda. Now, she happened to be really participative. So we talk about what kind of agenda she could set. And if we came up with something like your current stock, the July specials, and what she would do, or something like that. So she says that to him. Now, she practiced this with me on the phone because she said, oh my gosh, this feels so like direct and controlling. And I said, I know that that will feel like that for you, but trust me, have a go with it. So just before the meeting, we'd arranged that she's going to ring. We're going to go through this again. And she calls me and she's like, just a quick question. I know that the family's just got back from Fiji. You can put the answer in here. Should I quickly just ask about how was their Fiji holiday before I set an agenda? What do you think? Yes or no? No, exactly. I'm like, no, do not ask about his Fiji holiday. She goes, but that would be so rude. And I said to her, it would feel rude to you, but you actually asking and kind of prying into his personal is maybe what feels rude to him. So I said, Jess, you're going to have to trust me. Go in and set the agenda. So she's like, again, one of those situations, she's like, I'm dying on the inside. I feel like I'm rude. She goes in, she sets an agenda. He stayed for a 20-minute meeting and she walked out with 2 sales that day. It doesn't work every time like I'm sharing, but I'm just saying because she changed her mode, was it uncomfortable? Yes. But she sent a signal to him that I'm not going to ask about your family and waste your time. I'm here to sell you carpet and you're here to buy carpet from me. And she got straight to the point. Let's slide down then. What do you do for an expressive mode? What do expressive modes love to do? You can write it in your chat. What does an expressive communication style love to do? Yep. They love to talk. So when you're trying to get someone to talk, what skill would you use? And here's what it is, okay? You can ask 2 to 3 questions in a row. Ask 2 to 3 questions in a row. So write that down. That's the skill you can use. And then we'll talk about what that signals to an expressive style. So if you're expressive and I say this to you, I'd love to hear about your weekend. Tell me how your year started and have you set any goals for this coming year? If you're expressive, something will happen inside of you. And probably if you're expressive, you'll already be like, can I get my fingers on the keys and start answering your questions? Because you want to be involved, okay? So the skill is you don't ask one question and then wait for them to answer. That becomes a bit more interviewee. Expressive people, and if you've watched 2 expressive people in a cafe, both can be talking at the same time and listening. So expressive people love to talk. So the skill you're going to use is you ask one question, second question, third question, and then stop. Now, if you're not expressive, you're probably going, oh my gosh, they're going to go for it. And guess what? They will. But I want to give you one other skill that you can use. And here it is. Which question do people tend to answer? First question, second question, or third question? You can put your answer here in the chat. Do you think if I asked 1, 2, or 3 questions, do people typically ask third question? Yeah. And so here's what you can do. How was your weekend? What's your week looking like? I'd love to hear about your goal for 2025. They are now going to answer likely the third question, which you can use to your advantage because you can signal, I'd love to hear about your weekend. I'd love to hear about your meetings that you've got coming up. But what I'm really interested in is that third question. So what we call this is you bring them on track, but you send the signals that they get to talk. So use that third question to your advantage. It's a great way to harness their enthusiasm and their excitement, get them talking, but get them talking on the topic that you have or you want or need from them. Okay, 2 to 3 questions in a row. Sliding into participative. Here's what you can do with this style. Let's just ask this question. Who is going to find this style the most difficult one to, you're going to have to work for this because you like to be fast, get straight to the point. Who's going to find the most difficult to connect with a participative, generally speaking? Yeah, direct. And here's the skill you're going to use. Write this down. Comment on their cues, clues, and hints. Comment on their cues, clues, and hints. Once you've finished writing, let me just ask you a question. You don't need to answer this. I just want you to experience something. If I said to you, put in the chat, don't do it, but I say to you, put in the chat, what have you learned about me this morning that I haven't told you? And now if I said, okay, put that in the chat, what have you learned about me this morning that I haven't told you? So I've told you that I like surfing. The question I'd get you to do is like, you can say anything you want, but what I wanted you to experience, can you feel that different space where you had to go, oh my gosh, what have I learned about Kelly that she hasn't told me? Can you hear how it's like you had to go in and actually think about all the cues and all the hints that I may have given you that you've now learned something about me without me directly telling you? It's that skill that we need to use to make comments on the cues and clues. And here's what that could look like. It could just simply look like saying, doesn't sound like your weekend was that great. And they might go, oh my gosh, it actually wasn't. And then they would elaborate. I don't know if gray's the color for you. Yes, I would love white, blah, blah, and they'll elaborate. So if you can comment on the clue, the cue, or the hint that you've heard, you will draw them closer and connect with them. Why? Because their question, underlying thinking is, do I like you? Do I trust you? Here's a by the way. When participative styles go around and live their life in the world, do you think most people take time to comment on their cues and clues? Or do you think most people just overjump and think, well, now, if there's a direct in the room or an expressive in the room, I can pretty much guarantee you that they are going to just be jumped over because they didn't quite keep up with it. So, only to say this, participative styles are used to putting out those bits of hints and information to the world, but they're really used to that being ignored or not picked up. So if you are really wanting to connect with that style and you come along and you pick up that comment, and the concept is you put it on the table so you create more discussion, something in them goes, oh my gosh, you see me, I can now go back to the thinking, begin to trust you. So really important if you're wanting to connect with that style. Last skill that you can use, and it's connecting with an analytical. We got 2 for this one. Okay, first of all, if you think that you're more expressive, you're going to write this one in capital letters, okay? So number 1, write it down. If you're expressive, write it in capitals. Leave the silence. Leave the silence. So that's the first skill that you can use. The worst thing you can do, especially when you're expressive, is there's a silence and you think, oh, yay, it's my turn to talk again. And you just jump straight into that silence. Because what you're doing is you're actually stopping their thinking. And what you think you're doing is drawing them on at a hurrier pace, much more exciting and fast for you. But what they'll tend to do is either disconnect or they'll go, oh, now right back, and they'll bring you right back to the point where you didn't let them keep thinking because they didn't move with you. They were still thinking. So the first skill you're going to use is leave the silence. The second skill is use a third party example. Use a third party example. So this would be where you talk about, hey, let's go and have a picnic on the river. And so that's just a suggestion, but then the example would be, do you remember 3 weeks ago it was blowing onshore at the beach, so we decided to take the picnic to the river and it was so much more relaxing. There wasn't sand in our food. For an analytical style, they'll go, yes, there's the evidence as to why this suggestion is a good suggestion. If you're selling to that style, just telling them that it's good for them is a start, but to become more influential as you go, hey, here's how we did it somewhere else. I know I can make it happen for you. And here's my evidence story. And you give that to them. Now they go, oh, you know what you're talking about. And they connect in. So now we've got each style, what you spot, you've got the underlying thinking, and you've got the skill to use. Can you flip your workbook page? Because now we got to make it real. And what I'd love you to do now is just have a look. So in your workbook, you now have dotted lines through each style. This is because most people have two communication modes that they use daily. That's their comfortable go-to modes, okay? So you might first of all say, oh, I think I am analytical first. But you'll notice now within the analytical, there's another 4 boxes, and those boxes represent these boxes. So if we look at the analytical, you would go top left, it's analytical, analytical. And in the analytical, that top right box would be analytical direct. Underneath analytical expressive, or you could be analytical participative. So 2 questions here. I would love for you to now put your name where you think you mostly communicate. And if you can only decide, well, I think I'm mostly expressive, put it there. And then you can work on that. It's what we call your second string to your bow and figure that out a little bit. Why do we do this? Because if you understand what your communication mode is, you probably, let's pick direct. If you're direct, you probably go take control, set an agenda, have short sentences. That comes naturally to you. Where do you think doesn't come naturally to you? It's usually that opposite corner. And so what I would say from today is that's a great place to start. That's a great place to start. Here's the other. So once you've found out where you fit, you can put, and I'll get you to do this. You've actually got it in a work at the end of this. I've got some time to apply exercises, but a great way to bring this to life is if you're in a job, you can think about the people that you're either trying to sell to, the people you're trying to manage and lead, the people you're trying to connect with. If you're building a business, as soon as you get a client, if you can start to go, oh, what's their communication mode, and start to adapt and change yours, and you identify where they fit, you now know what skill you can use to connect with that style. You're not stepping into a different personality, you're just changing the way that you speak. And so you can use this page to start to put people in boxes. So I would say, think about the people you work with already and see if you can plot some of them there to generate a stronger connection. Just in summary of this, people like them. People like the same style of communication. It comes easy. Connecting and building rapport is so important when you want to generate a connection or an outcome. Understanding why people communicate the way they do helps us not take it personally, but understand what it is that they're looking for in a conversation. And here's a challenge. Just put a circle around the style that you think is more work, more energy required for you to connect with. So put a circle around that style now. And for fun, before we're coming near the end of our time, but on that page above or on that page somewhere, if you write, so let's say you have identified as the direct style is going to be hard for me. If you can write, I'm going to learn, and then you're going to put the skill. So I'm going to learn to set an agenda. I'm going to learn to ask 2 to 3 questions. I'm going to learn to comment on cues and clues. Let me now share with my Christmas story from my businessman. So we actually went through this with his team, and at the end of our training, he goes, oh my gosh, I know what happens. My family does love each other. We want to come and connect, but we all try to connect from what suits us. So he said, but now He goes, I can listen to my sister's long stories because I understand now that I'm actually learning what she's thinking. They're not just long stories for the sake of it. And he goes, I'm going to learn so much more about. And he said, and my brother, I don't think it's because he doesn't like us. I think it's because he needs some time away and he processes. And so when he comes back, those nuggets that he sends, because he's listened so well the night before, what he says actually carries so much golden value. And he actually said, I'm already looking forward to Easter because I'm going to have a go with all of this. So when you think about how you can use this to connect to people in your life and influence that outcome, all of this is so practical to generate that difference. And if you jump over the page and you can turn your workbook page here, I've put in a time to apply, and you can do this once we finish. It's just there so that you can quickly jump into generating a way to use these skills and not just go, oh, that was really cool, Kelly was entertaining, and not use them again. Why? Because we're so passionate about you actually being able to have a go. And think about this. If you think about how you can connect with somebody and generate an outcome. So, because if you don't connect, you're much less likely to be able to persuade. You're much less likely to be able to motivate anybody. You're much less likely to be able to sell. You're much less likely to be able to get a great negotiation because you're not connected. And you're much less likely to be able to build trust. So even today, this has been a great start because you've walked away with skills that you now have in your tool belt. My encouragement to you is jump online and have a look at what else we offer, because we have courses that go for 6 and 10 months. Do you know, here's a story that happened just last week. We received an email and it was about dinner time. And this person said, I'm sitting here typing this email because the skill of assertion that we just went through on your line on training, I got one of my children is now cooking dinner and I'm sitting here emailing you, and they were like, I love it. It really works. So just so you know, when we're doing the skills and the content that we cover in our other workshops, all of them are this practical. So once you finish, you've got something you can go away and use. We need to say you'll receive an email. You can check in soon, and it's a thank you for coming on this webinar. And out of that, what we've done is we've got a special price. It's usually $199. We've got it for $139 per month. And that's just for the people that have been on this webinar if you wanted to jump onto one of our training. So you've received an email, you can follow that link. My encouragement is don't miss that opportunity, because I know that the team have set it up to only last 48 hours once we sign off. So you've got 48 hours to take use of that. And it's truly just a thank you. Let me just tell you what options we have available. We've got a sales mastery course, which is a 10-month course. It's sell, sell, sell. If you're in sales, you need to get results, because often your life depends on it. And if you can do one thing, like my health salesperson, that all of a sudden you discover, oh my gosh, I'm not missing a whole group of people, you get to influence your sales. Another course we offer is our leadership and management training, and that's again 10 months. And this course covers all of the skills that you want to use, because when you're a leader or a manager, you generally have a team under you, whether that's 1 or 2 people, and you need to get results through those people. Otherwise, you're just more busy running around parenting them. But if you as a manager can get results through your team, the outcomes you can achieve double, triple, and even more. So there's that course. We've got another course, and it's effective communication. So we would start with something like this, and we would build more tools to that tool belt. And I've just put there, communication is your gateway to possibilities. If you don't connect, if you don't know what to do next, you're the one that's left in those social circumstances where you're, oh my gosh, are they listening to my story? What shall I do? And the last course that we offer, and it's a 6-month one, is it's a self-awareness. We are doing this course, and here's what I wrote about it. It's like, in a world obsessed with looking good externally, and let's just go on Facebook, on Instagram, and having this external, I feel like what I'm noticing is that we're forgetting to find out who we are, what motivates us, what drives us, what's my personality, what things feel and come naturally to me. And so that is a 6 months all about getting to know yourself. Each course comes with a list of things like today, a workbook, your reminders, you've got pre-course exercises, you get an extra video with more content that I send out just because our time is shorter, so you'll get that. If you're a manager and you've got someone on the course, you get an email. The list just goes on. And here is the question I've got. If you have any questions and going, what course would be right for me? Don't forget to reach out, because we want to help you not just sign up, but actually get the right course for the outcomes that you're looking for. I want to turn the page and just draw the winner. I'll go check that the team's got that. Okay, so exciting. If you are, I can't actually see names. I might need glasses, or I just can't read that far. But Danielle Clark, you have won the free access. Oh, yay, I see you waving. Congratulations. So Danielle, you've won free access to one of those courses. So what we're going to do is get in touch with you, talk you through those options, and decide what one's going to be the best suited for you. So you get to do that, and we'll be in touch with you after this. So congratulations for that. That's so exciting, and I'll look forward to getting to know you more and seeing you on that course. That's the winner. I just want to take the last 4 minutes, one, to say thank you. Thank you for allowing me to serve you. And I trust and hope that every skill we've covered has actually put a tool in your hand that you can now go away and use and generate conversations that maybe you have shied away from in the past because you don't know what to do, or situations that you've avoided because you don't know what to do. But now you've got a way to connect with people. We operate this business because we have experienced what having skills, life skills in your hands actually allows you to do. It can create the life that you want. And I would say, I know it works. Why? Because we are proof. Our business is proof. Our clients are proof. We've had clients that trained all through COVID, and like many businesses took a big backseat. These businesses had staff that were motivated, engaged, and still moving forward, even in the hardest times that we've all walked through. We know it works. So I'm inviting you now to jump on in there, have a look at what we've got. And really, our heart behind all of this is just to empower you. So I hope two things. You've learned more about yourself. You've learned more about why people might irritate you, and now you know what to do about it. Thank you so much. It's amazing that you've joined us today, and I wish you the best. I would love to see so many of your faces on one of our online trainings. So when you've finished up here, you can follow that link and see what there is. If you want to reach out, please reach out to us now. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day, your evening, depending what your times is. Thank you so much for the feedback I'm seeing come through. Thank you. I'm stoked that you've taken it away, and don't forget, you can keep talking because we're here to actually just get results for you. Thank you so much. We're going to sign off, and I look forward to seeing you on our online training.